Thank you very much for your time, Hero, and we'll be going back to the desk with DJ Wheat and Axlav to talk to you a little bit about our next match.
Thank you, Total Biscuit. We are back. We have another match queued up here. Axlav, and you know what? We're gonna try to set him up and knock him down as much as we can. We actually got a little bit ahead of schedule, so we're gonna do our best to just try to keep these matches coming. We've got Huck versus State coming up next. But before we start talking about that, you know, of course, all the major MLG partners that are here this weekend. We've got several promotions going on, and this weekend only, all SteelSeries mice and MLG QCKs are 30% off at SteelSeries.com. So just go over there and use the promo code MLG2K13 and get yourself hooked up with some new gear this weekend.
It's awesome gear too. I actually use all that stuff at home. Amazing, amazing products there. Our next match.
Yes.
It's going to be a pretty exciting match because we could potentially lead to a Super Grudge match.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Huck mentioned that earlier this tournament already in the interview. He said, you know what? One of the matches I'm looking forward to is that potential match versus Naniwa.
And we can see that happen, but first he's got to get through State.
Right.
And for those of you guys who don't know State, he's been around in the pro circuit not quite as long as Huck, but he's been around for a while, and he's always one of the higher performing American talents. He got second at Starcraft America. He's shown some great performance lately.
Yeah, I mean, and he still has under his belt, regardless of when these wins came, they're still legitimate wins. He's got 2 MLG victories, looking for a third one, something that not very many people have been able to do. But he still has quite a bit of really, really amazing player sets to go through. And I think Naniwa is probably his, you know, this is going to be a hell of a challenge. But Naniwa is going to be that one challenge that he will need to overcome in order to, you know,
that's what he's looking to. I mean, he's eager to play Naniwa. He wants that match. But he's got to keep his focus on the current game at hand because State is no slouch at all. Players are just setting up right now. And the one thing that he's thinking about is how should he approach State?
Right.
Because one, you know, does he have builds he wants to stay for Naniwa? But he also has to make sure he takes State fully seriously because, I mean, State got second in Starcraft America, and that was a very competitive tournament with all the up-and-coming American talents. State's shown very strong PvP as well in the past. He often plays very aggressively. His micro is very strong, and that's a similar kind of skill set to Huck as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to mention that. In fact, seeing those two types of skill sets really, really clash should be interesting. One of the things I love about PvP is just straight-up unit control battles and just seeing the outcome of a match determined by how well a player controls their units, or just, you know, what did they warp in when their opponent warped in? Was it different, etc. So I'm very excited to see how this one's going to turn out. And you know what? Actually, a few months ago, I would have said this is going to be a harder match for State. But as you mentioned, he's gotten the chance to be on the stage. He's gotten a chance to make it far at several tournaments. And for that reason, I feel like that little experience will just help him be comfortable in this matchup, where otherwise it might not be, you know, that comfortable a matchup, knowing that you're going up against someone who's been on this stage many times, who's been, you know, on the international stage many times, etc.
That's right. I can see he's shaking the nerves out of the system. He needed a minute to get ready. It looks like both the players are ready, I think.
They are, and Akalon Waste is going to be our first match, our first map here for this matchup.
What I'm looking forward to see is what type of mind games Huck is going to play, because both these players are very aggressive, both of them have very solid micro, but one thing Huck does better than pretty much any player out there is the mind games. He knows when the high abilities, he knows when his opponent scouts him to change his tech pattern very quickly, and is he going to try to use some of his mind games against State here? Yeah,
I think that's a great point, and something that Huck, again, has exercised for a very long time in all of the many tournaments that he's competed in. Let's go ahead and introduce our players, starting with the northwest position as the blue Protoss. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for States! And in the southwest, east position, as the red Protoss from Team Evil Geniuses, give it up for Huck.
Huck could be the first player to ever win 3 MLG championships. He has 2, and there's no one else in this event who's won 2. So he's the only guy in this entire event who's won 2 MLG championships. And if he wins at third, that'd be pretty groundbreaking. But of course, there's a long road ahead of him, and that road starts with State.
Yeah, and you know, this is day 2. If you've just tuned in and missed yesterday, we saw several of the round 1 and round 2 winner matches, and now we're not only starting to see the round 3 matches play out, but today we're also going to see the elimination of notable participants here at MLG Spring Championship, and sometimes that can be just as exciting as watching the final rounds unfold.
One thing we'll have to see if Huck does is one of Huck's trademarks in PvP is he doesn't like to probe scout. He likes to save all his minerals just to get his build going as smoothly as possible, and then of course he'll scout later in the game with pressure or with hallucination observer, Phoenix, or whatever opening he chooses. Now, State actually sent a probe around to check for proxy opponents. He was worried about that cannon rush. We saw Bubbles take out Coach Park with that on this exact same position.
The only difference I'm seeing is that State has 1 less probe and gas, actually 2 less now. Huck was on 3-2 for a while, and then now has gone up to 3-3. And again, we see the probe just making sure, checking all those nooks and crannies of the base of State, and I don't blame him. You know, we've seen several matches here at MLGs that have been determined by a pylon that wasn't scouted, or you know, a probe that people didn't see. So it's not surprising, Axlab, to see a more alert and attentive probe checking every little space that they possibly can.
State does not want to lose to any secret proxy pylon. He wants to play a full game. Opening with a sentry first, and if you get the sentry very early, of course, by the time your opponent's warp gate completes, you can have 2 force fields ready. The fast sentry will indicate either a very fast tech or a very fast expansion. We saw earlier in stats. Stats use a fast sentry to then get a fast expansion, but also sometimes people like the tech behind it.
Oh, he's going to try to keep the vision of the Twilight Council away from that probe, and he does. I saw the moment that the Zealot hit that probe and the probe started to move in, he chrono boosted that mothership core. He wanted to get it out as quickly as possible, try to keep that Twilight Council a secret. So he does manage to do just that. On the other side, State has thrown down that Stargate.
This is going to be a very, very tricky opening as far as the control goes. Of course, Huck is going to have a lot more gateway units out in the field because his gateways are a little bit before State's. But the Stargate play can really turn things around. It depends, one, can they identify that it's a Dark Templar play and get the appropriate detection if it's Oracle or if it's Observer on the field. And then 2, can either Huck do enough damage with his gateway, his early gateway units, his Dark Templars, or if he doesn't do much early damage, can State kind of come back with an Oracle harass or Phoenix harass and take that map control back away from Huck.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting to see how the timing is going to work. And as you mentioned with the Oracle, we're going to have Phoenixes coming out first. But, you know, that is certainly possible. You know, a force field can keep those DTs out. But the airspace cannot be stopped, really. I don't know. I mean, he knows there's some level of aggression coming.
And that's almost a giveaway. If your opponent's not pressuring you with Stalkers or Zealots or something, and they're building proxy pylons, that almost always indicates a Dark Templar rush. As State's seen that pylon, he's got to be suspicious.
Yeah, he's got 2 sentries here at the top of the ramp, ready for a force field. He's going to have some units come up, and I like this. Maybe try to bait those force fields out now, and then when those DTs come in, he can always morph Archons and get inside that way as well. Phoenixes show themselves, lift up those initial Zealots. He is going to get a couple of kills here before he's going to have to retreat back. But here come the DTs. No, force fields are thrown down, and what can he do?
I mean, he's got to chrono boost an Orc out as fast as possible there. It's just starting production now, but that still is going to take about 40 seconds to get out. Photon overcharge, and we'll keep the Stalkers at bay, and the Phoenixes can actually pick those off as well, but the DTs, there's still nothing to spot them quite yet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's going for a pylon!
He's going for the pylon.
He's got to use the force field.
Nice, very nice. Keeps those DTs out. He knows he's going to go ahead and just get away because he knows exactly what will happen the moment that Oracle pops. Now, how many probes did he actually end up killing? 4. He went after the army for quite a long time there, Axlab, where I feel like he probably could have done a ton of more damage inside that main, but it's not over yet. Huck morphing in Archon, getting out there, dealing with some, obviously some harass here inside his own main base, and that equalizes the probes killed right there.
not a bad move from State. Try to keep Huck on the defensive. Huck has 4 warp gates. He also has the Archon there. That's a very powerful tool against Phoenixes.
Yeah, already that
and
first
there's
Phoenix.
no Photon Overcharge left. Does he have another Photon Overcharge? I don't think he has the ground units.
No, he needs 40 more energy.
Oh.
And, yeah, I don't think he does either. I mean, those
Oh,
Zealots.
he's supply block now too with that piling. And this
Zealot, and then the Phoenix is left. The Phoenix is getting targeted down by the Stalkers, and it does look like he's going to hold, but here come DTs and more Zealots behind this.
such a heads-up play by Huck. He saw his opponent use the Oracle's Pulsar Beam, so it's not going to have energy to use Envision. The DT's not going to have response. State realizes this, desperately trying to get another Oracle out, but it's just started.
Yeah, and it's going to take, I think, too long before the damage is done. Now, once again, DT is going to go after this army. At this point, I think if he kills the standing army, he's got free reign over the probe line, but more importantly, it could just be a GG at this point. Final Sentry's going to fall. Only a couple Zealots are remaining. State's trying to hold on, but Huck is pushing too hard, and I'm sure moments away from GG.
Oh, he's got the, no units there. What a great game by Huck.
And you know, I mean, honestly, like, State did everything right. His probe came in at the right time, but he went left, and he should have gone right, and if he would have gone right, he would have seen that,
the Twilight Council.
Thank you,
Yep.
thank you. And then inevitably would have known what was coming, so.
It's also, I mean, he played his build a little bit risky. He kept his first Phoenix back. If you use the first Phoenix to scout, you can identify the build.
You're right.
He was trying to kind of catch Huck off guard. If you stockpile a bunch of Phoenixes, sometimes you catch him off guard, get a bunch of free kills. But there's a risk to that. He took the risk and he got punished, man.